It is now your task to sit back and quietly watch a scene from the Hollywood masterpiece known as Dr. Zhivago. This clip will hopefully throw some extra light on how World War I brought to a head the inexcusable flaws revealed and shown by the Romanov regime under the Tsar Nicholas II and Tsarina Alexandria. While you watch this clip, I want you to reflect on 3 key questions. That is, see, think and wonder. What do you see partaking in this clip? Who are the individuals? Where is the setting? What are the objects being used? What is the language used? What is the body language, etc.? I also want you to think. That is, what do you think is going on? What is the event and what is the implications of the event? And like any good history student, you should always wonder what is about to proceed or happen next. So I want you to think at the end of the conclusion of the clip, what does this clip make you wonder about the Russian Revolution? While you're watching this clip, I don't want you to sit there and note take and comment on the acting or the weak acting. That is not the purpose of this task. It is for you to gain a greater insight to World War I. So please refrain from your personal comments on the structure of the film. At the conclusion of the clip, you will be ushered into teams, and the purpose will be that you will be exploring how the 300-year rule of the Romanov regime officially came to an abrupt end in 1917.
In bourgeois terms, it was a war between the Allies and Germany. In Bolshevik terms, it was a war between the Allied and German upper classes, and which of them won was a matter of indifference. I was ordered by the party to enlist. I gave my name as Petrov. They were shouting for victory all over Europe, praying for victory to the same God. My task, the party's task, was to organize defeat. From defeat would spring the revolution, and the revolution would be victory for us. The party looked to the conscript peasants, most of them wearing their first good pair of boots. When the boots wore out, they'd be ready to listen. When the time came, I was able to take 3 battalions with me out of the front line, the best day's work I ever did. But for the moment, there was nothing to be done. There were too many volunteers, like me. Mostly it was mere hysteria. But there were men with better motives, men who saw the times were critical and wanted a man's part. Good men wasted. Unhappy men, too. Unhappy in their jobs. Unhappy with their wives. Doubting themselves. Happy men don't volunteer. They wait their turn and thank God if their age or work delays it. The ones who got back home at the price of an arm or an eye or a leg, these were the lucky ones. Even Comrade Lenin underestimated both the anguish of that 900-mile-long front and our cursed capacity for suffering. By the second winter of the war, the boots had worn out. But the line still held. Their greatcoats fell to pieces on their backs. Their rations were irregular. Half of them went into action without arms, led by men they didn't trust.
Come on, you bastards!
And those they did trust?
Come on, comrades. Come on. Come on.
last, they did what all the armies dreamed of doing. They began to go home. That was the beginning of the revolution.
Deserters.
Placements.
Come back! Stick together! Stick together and we'll be all right. And be ready for them. Turn round, lads.
Don't go any further.
Come on, lads. Turn round.
Pigs to the slaughter. Look at you.
Two-way speed. Turn round, lads! Get back in your ranks! Get back in your ranks, I say! Don't pay any attention to those cowards! Listen, lads. 10 miles up that road are the Germans! Rubbish! Not rubbish! They're coming! And they're coming fast! You've let them in! They're coming for your wives, your houses, your country. Your country, officer? Yes, my country. And Get back in your ranks! Get back in your ranks! Get back in your ranks, I say! Get back! Get back in ranks!
At the start of 1917, very few people actually expected the overthrow of Tsar Nicholas II. Russia's internal state was in a critical condition, but in February 1917, it became absolutely fatal. Yet all the key players of the revolution up to this point were in exile. Lenin away in Switzerland, Trotsky abolished to Siberia. The Tsar was actually 650 kilometres away at Russia's World War I front line. Despite the revolutionary devotion of Lenin, Trotsky and others, these men in no way initiated the revolution that would occur in February of 1917. So who were the individuals, who were the groups that inspired the takedown of a 300-year rule of one family, bringing Russia to its knees and making it ripe for revolution at the hands of a revolutionary who was waiting in the wings. Using page 28 of your class booklet, it is now your task as a class to equally separate yourselves into 3 groups. The purpose of these 3 groups is that you are all clearly being assigned a task. Group 1 has set questions, Group 2 has set questions, and Group 3 has set questions. Each group must clearly answer their assigned question on the 3 whiteboards that we have in the classroom. You all should know where my whiteboard markers are, which are in the teacher's desk, the second drawer, in the black pencil case. There should be enough rubbers around the room, either located on the whiteboards, or you should realise that I keep my other rubbers under the DVD player in that stand. You should use no more than 15 or so minutes to use page 28 of your class booklet to satisfactorily write out your question on your whiteboard, answer your question in dot point format. It is then your task as a class to either move around the room and copy these notes into your Russian Revolution folders, or for some of you, you have been typing your notes the whole way through, so type these notes. That is your first task. Get ready, steady, go. Okay, task 2 for today is all about the Dumas. You are going to create a timeline of failure. If you recall, one of the stipulations back in the October manifesto was that Tsar needed to have some concessions for his people. And one of those concessions, one of the things that his people back in 1905 really wanted, was they really wanted a parliament in which they could elect people to, so that the Tsar could discuss his policies and laws before he implemented them. So these were the Dumas. There were 4 Dumas, and ultimately they all failed because of the way that the Tsar treated them. So before we can officially look at who sets up the new government after Tsar Nicholas, obviously the February Revolution, after he's just abdicated, we need to look back at these Dumas. So your next task is to create a timeline of failure. Using page 15 of your class booklet, you are to create a timeline that summarises the failure of the Dumas under Tsar Nicholas's reign. What I would like you to do is to go, you've already got the one large whiteboard, the one that's planted to the wall, go over and get the other large whiteboard, put it right next to the one that's on the wall, so therefore you should have 2 whiteboards next to each other. I want you then to select 4 of the neatest writers in our class. They will act as scribes for this task, and the first thing that the 4 neatest writers should do is one of them simply has to pick up a whiteboard marker and just draw a timeline. So one giant line that goes across both whiteboards. I would hope that we all remember from Year 7 Humanities how we do a timeline. That is, obviously, we're going to put information about the first Duma first, then the second, then the third, then the fourth, because a timeline is putting things in chronological order. So this is now your task. The rest of you need to go to each one of these scribes, and you need to use page 15 to summarise your Duma. For each Duma, make sure that you note when they took place, so the date. Make sure you put down the groups that were involved. Make sure that you also dot point what they demanded the Tsar to solve. That's a tongue twister. And make sure you also put down how the Tsar helped the Duma to ultimately fail. Once you've got this written along your massive timeline of failure, it's up to you whether you select someone or some people in the class to quickly type up this timeline, or you might take some pictures on your phones and you might actually send them to someone and print them up to make a worksheet that goes into your Russian Revolution folder. So that is task 2 for today. Get cracking. April 16, 1917. Vladimir Lenin, leader of Revolutionary Bolshevik Party, returns to Petrograd after a decade of exile to take the reins of the Russian Revolution. Russia will never be the same.